again to do another pregnancy related video. Today I wanted to talk all about nausea, vomiting, morning sickness, and what my experience was like with it. Let's get started. So I'm currently 17 weeks pregnant. I'm not actually experiencing much nausea, vomiting or morning sickness anymore. So I'd say that the nausea was probably the symptom that bothered me the most. It was the one that I felt was most debilitating and had just the biggest effect on what my lifestyle was like when I was feeling it. The onset was 25 days post-ovulation. So that's around the 5.5 week mark, so nice and early. It started as really mild nausea for maybe 2 or 3 days. Once it hit the 6 week mark, it really ramped up and was quite severe. I felt the nausea from the second that I woke up in the morning till when I was trying to go to sleep at night. So the only time I really felt a good amount of relief was when I was actually asleep. Luckily for me, it did really start to wind down around that 11.5 to 12 week mark, like a lot of people said it would. So really thankful for that. Now I do feel a little bit of nausea in the mornings before I've eaten, but once I eat and move on with my day, I'm usually fine for the rest of it. So that's really nice. So the vomiting side of things didn't last too long. I was vomiting on and off for just a couple of weeks in the middle there. It would come on at any time of the day and it would come on quite quickly. You would just get a feeling that takes over your body and think, I'm going to throw up. Luckily, I was always at home when it happened and I could just quickly run to the bathroom, throw up 5 or 6 times. And to be honest, I actually preferred the days where I was vomiting because then I would get some relief from the nausea for the rest of the day. When I wasn't vomiting, the nausea would just last all day long. So that's why I still think of the nausea as the worst symptom rather than the vomiting. So let's talk about what I feel like triggered nausea and vomiting. For me, it did feel like everything really triggered it. I felt unwell before I ate, when I had a full stomach, as I was eating, and being in a car was awful. I do get a little bit of motion sickness anyway, so being in a car really did just stimulate it even more, and I just didn't really want to go anywhere. So I did try and keep up my walking in the early stages because I wanted to be really active during my first trimester. Slowly that just fizzled out though because walking was quite difficult. And I didn't really want to be too far away from home when I was feeling really unwell. My workouts were just completely out of the question. Just moving, stretching, any kind of lifting and movement just really triggered the nausea. So I just had a little bit of a break from exercise, which ended up being a couple of months. So what was I eating? So once the nausea kicked in, I didn't really have an appetite at all. I felt really full all of the time. I knew I needed to eat to feel better, and an empty stomach was of course a trigger, but I really struggled to get in enough food. My approach to food was just focusing on getting food in at that point. I really did have to let go of all of my usual healthy habits and my usual perspective around what I should be eating, because it was more important to actually just fill my stomach and not feel sick. During this time, I did really take a step back from social media because being a nutritionist, people often look to you to see what you're eating or how you're handling situations. And this was at a time where I wasn't ready to announce to my Instagram that I was pregnant, but I wasn't really eating the way you would imagine a nutritionist would be eating. So I didn't have a lot of really inspiring or educational things to share with everybody. And instead I just thought it's a good time to take a step back. So foods that I was really loving, fruit. Fruit was my go-to a lot of the time, especially if it was ice cold. Certain things I loved were purple grapes, pineapple, watermelon, and fresh berries. Loved them all, couldn't get enough of them. Soups were really crucial at this point. I would have soups in the fridge at all times, and I would just have really small portions. I would literally be having like a quarter of a cup or a half a cup at a time, and then, you know, an hour or two later I'd heat some more soup up and keep trying. Toast was a really easy one. I think most people would have felt this way when they're not feeling their best, and they'll have some Vegemite toast or even just some jammy toast. Was really good. I'd be able to eat like one piece at a time and be overly full, which was really frustrating because even though I wanted to eat more, I just physically felt like I couldn't fit it in. So bland, salty carbs. These were really easy to get in, and I could just nibble on these through the day just to fill my stomach up. So things like hot chips, hash browns, mashed potato with lots of salt. And then there were the cravings. These were really strange, and they didn't actually show up the way that I thought they were going to show up. If there was a food that I saw on social media, or I saw somebody eating, or I just saw a picture of, I'd be like, oh yeah, that'd be really nice. And then I could actually eat a full portion of that meal. So some of my random cravings were, again, not very healthy, but a zinger burger with extra mayo. For some reason, I could eat a whole burger if I was craving it. I also wanted scones with cream and jam. Again, not something that I normally go for. A classic American hot dog with sauce and mustard. This was one of those things that we went out of our way to get. So what made it feel better? There were a long list of things that I would try, and I don't think it was one thing at a time that would help, but it would be like a nice combo of everything. So eating laying down was something that I did a lot. Trent was really good at this time and would prep a lot of our food and would just allow me to like lay on the couch or in bed and eat, which was really helpful. Things like scrambled eggs on toast with tomato sauce. I would usually have that first thing in the morning while I was still, like my head was still on the pillow. I have a series of photos that I called Laying Down with Food, and this summed up the month really well. As soon as I opened my eyes in the morning, I would have to reach over to a little packet of like Ritz crackers, or at one point it was pizza shapes, just to get something in my stomach before I got up to go to the toilet. So supplement wise, I was already taking magnesium at night, so that is definitely a good one to help with nausea. I had added in an activated B6 drop, which really did help as well. I also continued with the probiotics that I was taking, a good quality fish oil, vitamin D, and also a prenatal. Even to this day, when I take any supplement now, I still dry reach. But a few other things that I found helped was having fruit tingles in my pockets at all times. I think I would only have like 1 or 2 a day, but I found them really useful when you just want a really nice taste in your mouth, or when you're feeling a bit sick, just gives you something else to focus on. This was really good, especially when we'd walk the dogs. I would just always have a packet in my pocket. Another thing that really helped was just always having snacks on me that were just really plain that I could have, so that I never got caught out feeling hungry. I did try ginger teas in the beginning, and I was just drinking them all day long, just hoping that they would help, but I didn't really notice too much of a difference. My acupuncturist did tell me that this is often because some people need a warming tea, whereas others need a cooling tea. So if you do try ginger tea and it doesn't work, you can try peppermint instead. I was so lucky to be working from home during this time, and Trent, my partner, also works from home. So thankfully I was able to be really flexible with my schedule and make sure I had enough time in between clients to have a little lay down, or have some food and sort myself out before jumping on another call. So my final thoughts are, first of all, try and go with the flow as much as possible. I found taking the pressure off myself to not get it perfect and to just roll with it to be really helpful, and hopefully your situation allows for that as well. And remember that it is likely to pass. I don't think I believed people when they told me that that second trimester would come around and I'd feel better, but for most people it does happen. So I hope you found that really interesting or useful. I think it's so important for us to share our experiences because often we go into pregnancy and we don't know what to expect, or we haven't heard people talk about this type of thing. We see these perfect pregnancies on social media and we think that ours is going to be like that, and often there's going to be bumps along the way.